Hey there. Do you ever wonder how the rich seemingly get richer year after year while you're still struggling? Or do you wonder, what are you going to leave behind for your kids? What kind of legacy will you leave for your heirs? What about you'd like to know more about financial freedom through passive and residual income? If any of these are topics you'd like to know more about, but you don't know where to start, let's get connected. I have a 10-part strategy to grow, protect, and transfer wealth that I call Pitranomics. I'm Juli Pitra. Join me in my Facebook group, and let's grow together. See you soon. Hey everybody, it's Juli Pitra, and it's time for my Pitranomics Thursday talks. I'm really excited. First of all, this is just going to be a Q&A. There have been some questions submitted, so we'll just discuss those. If anybody else has any, you can bring those. And I'm having fun with the new platform, or the old platform. Started with Zoom, went over to something else. So there's still a little to work out. Bear with me. We're going to have a little fun with it. Another thing we're going to try is sharing my, hold on, we're going to share a file, a presentation as a virtual background. So let's see how that goes. And they don't. Let's see. Grant access. Oh, it's already ready. Okay. Can everybody see the presentation and see my bubble head over here in the lower right or lower left, whatever corner you've got it on? So this is fun. I'm excited about new platforms. All right, so for those of you who've never heard of Pitranomics, it's my 10-part strategy to grow, protect, and transfer wealth. It comes from the teachings of my mom, who, by the way, would have been 85 on Tuesday. So that was kind of a rough day for me. I don't really know what to do about missing her so much, except to go ahead and try to share some of the things she's taught me through Pitranomics. Now, my last name is Pitra. That's my married name. And there's a lot of what I've learned and what I've developed here that comes from being married to Andrei Pitra, the Czech man from Prague, the Czech Republic. He and his family have a lot of other ideas, a lot of them complementary. So I'll start with saying that I was blessed to be married to a man all these years, 26 years plus, and we have very congruent values and goals as far as how to run our life and how to be financially and how to be emotionally and all that. So it's a big thing. And my husband's on, there he is. Thank you for stepping in for a minute. I know you're busy. But we're really going to just do kind of a summary. So once again, if you haven't heard, this is the 10-part strategy. Briefly, the first step, it's very important. Where am I? Understand what your goals are and understand what resources you have available. And in Pitranomics, we talk about money, energy, and time. There are other resources, but it's not what we focus on so much in Pitranomics. And then once you know where you're trying to go, those are those end of life goals that are so important. They're so pivotal that if you don't accomplish them, you will feel like your life hasn't had purpose. So they're very important goals. They're life goals. The second part is how to eat an elephant. It's how to accomplish those goals, how to set the interim milestones and understand if you've been successful, understand if you need to reevaluate. It's sometimes hard to take a huge life goal and be able to keep that right in front of you. So you have to break it up into little pieces that make it more digestible and seemingly more possible. You don't want to get inundated and overwhelmed and feel like, oh my God, I can't accomplish this big goal. No, you worry about the little goal and the next little goal and then the next little goal. Third strategy, who is in my lifeboat? Who do you keep close to you, either emotionally, professionally, whatever? Who is there that's available for you to help you if you need it and that you can help if needed? And sometimes it's not the people that you're born to that need to be in your lifeboat. It's not about who you love. It's about who is helping you accomplish what you need to accomplish and who you can help accomplish what they need to accomplish. Step 4, strategy 4, send your dollars out and have them come back with friends. Investing isn't really a hustle. It starts with accumulation, so you can then send that money out to earn more money either now or in the future. You're putting your money to work, not your time. So honestly, right now I'm in a bit of a hustle mode. It's constant work, but I'm looking forward to the time I'm also looking forward to the time my children can just kind of have some residual income. And really it's for their children, not so much for them, but chances are they'll be the custodians. Strategy number 5, build your fortress. Whatever it is you're building, your wealth, your knowledge, you have to protect it, because there will be those outside forces that try to assail what it is you're building. So there are a lot of strategies there. Some of it's about your finances, some of it's about your business, some of it's about your family. Whatever it is, build your fortress, protect what you're building. The next step, pay Uncle Sam what he's due. I do not advocate tax avoidance. I do support tax mediation. Do the best you can to pay the lowest in taxes that you are legally required to pay. Many people don't give this a whole lot of time because they think, oh, well, I just go to my CPA at the end of the year and he files my taxes. But this is more about being strategic in what you do and not just reactive in what you do. And then the next part, what are you leaving behind? And again, that's not just finances. So part of my legacy that I hope to leave behind, so that people remember that I come from a great woman named Jacqueline Tucker, and she had a profound impact, not only on me, but on other people. I feel that's part of the legacy that I am dedicating to her. And it's also from my kids, because they never got a chance to meet her. She passed before they were even thought of, before I was even married. But then there's also financial assets that you want to leave behind. So think about how you transfer the wealth of finances, the wealth of knowledge, the wealth of whatever to your heirs, whomever those heirs might be. Think about making sure they're ready to receive that blessing so it's not squandered. There is some responsibility in building a legacy and then handing it to people who are ready to carry it. The next strategy, get professional help. I believe very strongly in seeking the help of people who can provide specific knowledge that I do not have the time or wherewithal to learn. So that is an investment advisor, that is your tax strategist, that is your estate planner, but that could also be your personal trainer, that could be your mental health professional, that could be organizer. I had someone on to speak about how much of a waste of your time it is to be disorganized. And I'm still disorganized in many ways. I'm better than I was and not as good as I will be. So always seek those people that can help you, those specialists that can help you accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. The next strategy, snack now, feast later. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can't spend everything that you have coming in right now and be able to accumulate and be able to build. So you have to budget, you have to plan, you have to understand what's coming down the pike. You have to learn how to predict what's coming and try to be strategic in your reaction to big ticket items. Let's say a car or a wedding or school, any of that. Learn how to be predictive and strategic and not just reactive and drowning. And then the last strategy, the Joneses don't have Jack. That is an expression, I really don't know who came up with it, but please don't evaluate your progress or your success by what somebody else is doing. It doesn't matter. They may be on a path that's similar to yours, or they may not be. They may not have plotted out a path, in which case you certainly shouldn't be gauging your progress with theirs. So these are the strategies that are part of Pitranomics. You start with the first one, the assessment. You make sure you go to the second one, which is how to eat an elephant, mapping it out. And then you start making these iterative loops, which is why every quarter, once a quarter, we're going to have the recap and the question and answer and all that. So if there aren't any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm just going to plow through because I want to make sure I get through everything, because this is going to be interactive. I'm watching the chats. I have people watching other things if you want to ask me questions, but I did have some that were submitted and I want to go ahead and get started. So here's a question. How do I diversify my investment portfolio to minimize risk and maximize returns? Well, first of all, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not a financial planner. I can't help you like specifically, but what I can say is the first thing to do is to understand what goals you want to accomplish with your investment portfolio. Because without understanding what it is you want to accomplish, how much you need to accomplish it, and when you want to accomplish it, you don't know if you need to adopt a portfolio that has a lot of risk in it, or if you have time to just get there slowly and carefully. It generally goes hand in hand that the riskier the portfolio, you're hoping for higher returns. But risk means it doesn't always pan out. So you have to save your time and your resources so that you can regroup. In our case, for example, we have assets. Talk about the stock portfolio, which I really don't know that much about. That's my husband's side. But we have assets that are considered risky. And we have assets that are considered stable. Assets that are growing when it's a recession, and there are such assets, and assets that are growing when it's more of a boom market. So you have to have, if you don't know, you have to get guidance on how to do that. So for example, let's talk about retirement. If you're starting when you're 20, my daughter just graduated from college in her first job post-college. Maybe she's not thinking about retirement, but I hope after listening to her father and me, she is. She has time to take conservative steps. So maybe by the time she's 55, which is in 33 years for her, she has time to grow and build. But let's say you're 42, 45, and you haven't started thinking about retirement. And you're like, hey, I'd like to stop working or at least have the option to when I'm 60. That's not as much time. You got to get going. Got to be a little more proactive and risk accommodating in what you choose to do. This is when the professional help becomes really important. This is when deciding what goals you have becomes really, really, really important. A lot of people think there are get rich quick schemes, and there are some that can land you a windfall. But you know what's great about that windfall, great or bad? They can come, they can blow in, and they can blow out just as quickly. So if you're going to pursue the high risk schemes, make sure you've got some more conservative plans, assets, strategy behind it. My husband and I, actually, we just had a meeting with our investment advisor last week and a financial planner, and it was basically a recap. Are we on track to retire when it is we want to retire, or whatever retirement's going to look like? Because it might mean quitting the current occupation and doing something, but you're still bringing money. Keep in mind the plans you make at, let's see, how old were we when we first got married? I was 32, Andre was 27. You know, we've got different ideas about what we want to do in our 50s and 60s than we did back then. And that's okay. But we have been pretty diligent since then. It doesn't mean there hasn't been a bump in the road. I don't know if my husband wants to share. Actually, please don't, because it'll just make me embarrassed. But there have been bumps. There will continue to be bumps. We can't predict everything, but you can plan for what's probable. And then you can learn to react to what comes up that's not based with knowledge, based with proper help. So how do you diversify? Start with knowing what it is you want to do, what resources you need in order to do it, the timing that you're going to accomplish it or start it, and then give yourself some risk analysis or have someone help you understand how much risk you can put in there to accomplish over that period what it is you want to accomplish. Okay, let's see if I have. Okay. So I am to, was that to being disorganized there, Shamir? Yeah, all of us have some level of disorganization. There's nothing wrong with that until it completely stymies you. So I have those areas. I'm more than willing to talk about it. One of the things about doing what I'm doing, Pitranomics, sharing and talk about it, is because you never know when you're sharing your vulnerability or your accomplishment or just your day-to-day might impact someone else in a very positive way. You don't know when that's going to happen. And just get out there. Now, I'm basically a private person, but this is my way of opening up what I believe, what I think is worth other people knowing. So I hope it's of value to you. And let's get going. So protect your wealth. How can I protect my investments from market downturns or economic crises? Whew. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an investment advisor. I don't have a crystal ball about how market downturns can demolish what you've predicted or what you've accumulated. All I know is there's great advice out there. There are people who have weathered several cycles and they have advice to offer. So for example, there are people back in the 90s and the 2000s, they invested in these high-tech companies, which I think is great. They produced some amazing returns before they imploded, right? But if your portfolio was 100% of that and you had nothing to sort of offset the impact of that particular segment's implosion, then you were in trouble. Or if you didn't have a backup plan to say, okay, I've lost that fortune, but I could make another. I believe with all my heart that barring something completely unforeseen, and for those that aren't hundreds of years old, COVID might seem like it was a completely unforeseen event, but there were other pandemics that people had to get through, had to recover from. So it's not unprecedented in human history. It's just not in recent human history. For most of us that are alive, we don't remember anything like that before. But there's always lessons to be learned in history. Things cycle. Nothing ever stays great. For example, in the real estate market, last year in 2022, it was completely mad. The prices were crazy. Interest rates were low. People were overbidding. And a lot of people thought, oh, it's going to be like this forever, even though there is nothing historically to support that it's going to be like that forever. There's going to be a crash or a change or a pivot or a shift. Always, always, always. The pendulum that swings fully this way can't stay over there. It's going to come back. And you know what? It's going to swing again. That's one thing you can count on. Change. That's going to happen. So understanding that market downturns, economic crises are followed by market upturns and economic explosions, and that it's going to continue to be that way, that's the best way to protect your investments. Look at the types of things that have done well when the market has been down and make sure you have those in your portfolio. I'm a big believer in real estate. I love the fact that you have people that are paying down, that are paying for your mortgage, for the expenses of the house, and giving you a little tiny bit, because contrary to popular belief, you aren't making tons of money on a house that you rent to somebody for $1,800 a month. It's not happening. But you're making a little bit, and you're hoping to participate in the appreciation in that asset. So that is an asset that, unless you go back to like 2007 and 8, has been very lucrative. But people were still paying their rent in 2007 and 8. Those that didn't lose their jobs and lose everything. So, and one of the things I want to just share, in Texas, we didn't suffer as much from the, I guess, shenanigans of 2007 and 8 because we didn't have at that point those massive cost value explosions beforehand. However, now 2022 was interesting. We saw massive increases in home prices and values, well, home prices at least. In the real estate market, you can't pivot that quickly because your rents, you can't raise those just because the prices and the values and the insurance and the taxes go up. Those can go up a lot faster than you can take rents. So what you have then is the market squeezing your cash flow. Well, hopefully you aren't so over leveraged and have so few reserves that you can't support that squeezing, because with the squeezing, it's going to be followed by an easing. Just like the good times don't go on forever, the bad times don't go on forever. Might seem like they go on for a long time, they just don't go on forever. And the whole point is to weather that storm. That's like anything. Relationships aren't always great. Finances aren't always great. Nothing's always great. There's always something that's coming behind that seems to just really suck. That's part of the cycle. The whole point is to survive the up and the down and the up and the down for longevity. Well, at least that's my point. Let's see the next question. What are the pros and cons of gifting assets to family members during my lifetime versus transferring them in a will? Okay, again, disclaimer, I'm not an estate planning attorney or any kind of attorney, or, I don't have any of that specific licensing or experience. But by the way, these aren't the only two options available. You don't have to just gift them or transfer them through the will. There are other entities that you can use. And just as an example, there's something called a trust. You can transfer assets to a trust. You can remain both the trustee and the beneficiary. You can have secondary trustees. Trustees are the people that take care of the assets in the trust and steward them so that those benefits of that trust are available to the people who are designed to receive the benefits, the beneficiaries. So that's one way to do it. And it's really important that you seek professional help to decide what is most appropriate for you. There are these complex schemes that I've heard about where you put things in the business trust and the business charitable trust and, blah, blah, blah. Well, the maintenance of that and the legal requirements to make that happen and the compliance requirements, well, that's a bit above where I think I am right now. So, but if you ever have time, go look at Microsoft's, the financial documents over the past 20 years, or you can skip like every 5 years and look at where the transfer of money has happened and it's gone into charitable trust, and then go look at those financial documents to kind of see what's happening to the money. I did that last year, spent a little bit of time just looking at it. It's fascinating. It's great. I don't have the legal and the tax and all those resources they do, but that is a way of transferring wealth a different way to whomever. Maybe it's to a school. Maybe you have a philanthropy, a charity, or your grandchildren, or somebody else's children. And there are people who set up trusts for their canines. There is a way to transfer wealth. The pros and cons of gifting assets are going to depend on your particular situation and the situation of whom you transfer those assets to. For example, there's something called the Uniform Gift to Minors Act. If you're gifting assets to minors, money, stock, stuff like that, the minors have an advantageous tax strategy in order to receive that gift, and giving that to them, you have an advantageous tax strategy to doing it. Look into that. That is one way to do it. There is just giving that asset straight out to that person. Here's what I want you to think about. One, what's the impact on you of transferring that asset in a gift? And two, is the recipient of that gift ready to handle that largesse? It is irresponsible not to consider how prepared the recipient is when you give them the gift. So if you have $1 million and you're like, I'm going to give that to my son, my son's 5 years old, chances are the son's not handling the assets. There's somebody else handling it for him or her, or for him because it's a son. You got to think about who's taking care of that. And you want to make sure that they get the benefit of the asset you're trying to transfer. So the question is, what are the pros and cons? It depends on your situation, your tax position. It depends on the readiness of the recipient. And by the way, a will is not unassailable. Anyone can contest the will. If you create a will that's pretty strong, the plan is that they won't win contesting the will, or they won't dismantle your instructions. But your estate has to spend time defending it, and that diminishes the assets. So you got to consider who you're leaving the assets to. I'll tell you, just my own personal experience with family. If I have an asset, I need to just take off those rose-colored glasses and set them aside and say, what do I think is going to happen when I'm no longer here and those assets are left to be, say, divided by child X and child Y? Have child X and child Y shown that they get along well enough to be able to cooperate and take care of these assets I'm leaving? Do my trustees or appointees have enough understanding of my value system to handle those assets in a way that I would like for them to handle? Because once you're gone, you aren't coming back to change your mind about that. So you have to give it thought. And I will say that when my mom passed, I think even though she's a great, smart lady, there were some rose-colored glasses on there because things did not happen the way they were supposed to. Can't go back and make the changes, and whoever was supposed to receive something, you just have to let it go because there's nothing you can do about it then. I had a dear friend pass 2 years ago. She died without a will. I know for sure her assets didn't pass the way she wanted them to, but she didn't put them in place, because you don't think about dying when you're feeling great and healthy and you're like, I'm not that old, I'm only 60 or I'm only 70, but time isn't infinite for the amount of time you have on this earth. Get started with whatever it is you want to do. Let your wishes be known. Write them down in such a way or put into place that at least someone has the opportunity to know what they are so they can attempt to follow them. And then the next step, put the entities in place that will cause them to happen. Contracts, trusts, land trusts, wills. Seek the professional help it takes to understand what it is you want to do. And that's how that goes. Okay, let's see. If we have any questions, please put them in the chat or, oh, by the way, I forgot to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, and follow, or follow, like, subscribe, whatever the call to action is, do that. Follow me, let me know what you think. Case study 1. Person A spends most of their money on extravagance. Okay. Person B saved and invested most of their money, but lived below their means. And person C invested some money, but also had some extravagance. Okay. So, you know, my thing about this, as long as you're making strategic decisions, all 3 could be valid life choices. Just because I don't agree, let's say I'm person C and I don't agree with person A, doesn't make person A's choices wrong, as long as person A said, you know what? I have decided these are my goals and these are my resources and this is what I want to do. And this is exactly in keeping in my plan. If person A blows all of their money, and to use blows seems somewhat pejorative, but if they spend all of their money on extravagance and are struggling later, but this is what they wanted to do, and so they committed themselves to it, that is a valid life choice. I have no judgment about it. It doesn't suit me, but it is a valid life choice. Person B saved and invested most of their money, but lived beneath their means. And the whole point of that is to save it for later. I'm going to say my mother is a person B. She did not indulge in extravagances at all. And she made really, really good money for the time. My mother, since she was a person B, is probably why I think I'm more in the person C, because my mother saved and scrimped and all that for a time in the future she didn't get to live to see. And so I would say on a daily basis, I remember that. I try to balance. I don't want to live in such a way that I'm destitute when I'm old, but I don't want to live in such a way that I die before I get to do any of the things that would bring me joy or bring other joys or make me feel fulfilled as a person. So one more story I'd like to share, and I know I've shared it before, but my mother passed away in 1996 from breast cancer. She died in January, but she got really sick in October. So that time between October and January when she passed was extremely pivotal to me. I had the opportunity to spend time with her and talk with her and laugh with her and love on her and be loved by her before the chemotherapy and the laser and all that stole what was left physically. So it was hard to communicate, but we lived a lifetime in those few short months, and I am forever grateful for it. And one discussion we had is, she said to me, I don't want to go, because at that point her doctors had had the conversation. You have 6 months, and she didn't even have 6 months. But when you're looking at death staring you in the face like a train coming down a mountain, and you can't get out of the way, those are some of the greatest conversations. And she told me, I don't want to go, but I have no regrets. And that has been kind of my watchword since then. I'm not ready to leave right now, but I have loved as well as I could. I have been the best person that I know I could be, the best friend, the best wife, the best mother. I know I'm not perfect. I know I've messed up, but I don't beat myself up about it, because I did the best I could with where I was at that moment. And at this moment, I'm doing the best I can now. It does me no good to beat myself up for not knowing what I know now. And I'm going to know stuff in the future. God willing, I have a long future that I don't know now. I can't beat myself up in the future for what I didn't know now. And I have had wonderful interactions with people. So I love people. I am loved. There are people I respect and admire. Maybe there are some that respect and admire me. I've had some influence upon people. People have had influence on me. All of these choices are good, but I would say I'm more person 3 because I made a strategic decision to be so. My mother probably was more person B, didn't really indulge anything. And she said to me that she had no regrets as far as that. And I have absolutely no regrets for the mother that I have. She was amazing. The life lessons that she taught me, what I was able to share with my children, the fact that she created a woman that married a man that was Juli Pitra, is Juli Pitra. He's not gone, he's here. He's a great man. He's a great husband. He's a great father. He's a great friend. So that's a blessing that I think I got as a result of my upbringing, choosing a wonderful spouse. Hopefully he feels the same about me. Try to be the best spouse I can. We have a wonderful family. We have a great life. It's not always perfect. It's not always happy, but it's a great life. This case study is, where do you want to be? Make your plans. Use the Pitranomics strategies to do so. What's your plan? To burn out and live on ramen noodles or maybe peanut butter from age 40 on? Rock on, YOLO, or whatever the expression is. If you want to just never indulge yourself because you want to save and invest your money, maybe you feel your role is to pass on the wealth to the next and the next generation. Again, great. As long as it's your choice, your goals, your pursuits, great. And person C, which is kind of where I feel I am, because I do have a few extravagances. I decided to do it, considered my husband, considered my kids. We made joint choices. Let's rock on. So this is a case study. All 3 are valid life choices. I can't judge anybody else's. All right, and case study 2, which to me is pretty similar, but what I'm going to talk about this and say, person A, you hang out with people who only want to party. So that would have been me, 17, 18, 19, 20 or so. Now, my party didn't include drinking or whatever, but I had a great time. Person B, you hang around people with similar ambitions and goals. So you're on the right track, you're heading along with those people, but sometimes you need to have people that are further along the path. So this is great. Birds of a feather. You're supporting each other. Your accountability partners. Wonderful. You're floating along. Person C, hung around people who were successful but stagnant in life. I'm sorry, did someone? But anyway, people who've already accomplished their success and they're just coasting. I'm like, we're all great. Well, this is how I look at it. Person A, maybe they're at a certain time in your life, or maybe they are a constant in your life, but during certain periods. And person B, those are your road dogs. Those are your accountability partners. Those are the people making the same path. You're encouraging them, they're encouraging you. Maybe that's the purpose of those people. And then person C, those could be mentors. They've accomplished a whole lot, and now they're lying back going, woof, I've already done this. You can have all three of these people in your lifeboat, but you have to remember their purpose. And don't go around confusing the people who are successful and maybe stagnant, who could be mentors. Don't try to make them the ones that you party with. And don't try to make the people that you party with the ones that should be mentors. Just keep them in their right place. Because like the picture says, there's a whole bunch of people in that boat. Each one has an oar. And sometimes you need those people just to help you kind of chill out, relax, get back on track, to keep you motivated because they're right there beside you, or to be the ones that provide guidance along the way. So let's see what else we got here. Case study 3. Before I go on to this, do we have any comments, questions, testimonies, anything? Does anyone want to say something to me about this, or say something to somebody else? Because I would love to get some feedback. I've been talking and I need a drink of water. I'm gonna call on somebody in a minute. Excuse me. Hey, David, do you have anything to share? I like calling on David.
Of course, I always have something to say.
Okay.
No, this is some good information, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and that is, until we start looking at specifics about things, and we can't be too specific, but at the same time, we need to delve into it a little bit and actually figure out how it applies to each other, or to ourselves, or to our families. If we don't talk about it, you and I have talked about the trust, setting up trust before, and we still need to talk about that some more to protect the assets I do have for my daughters. And until we start actually talking about it and looking into it, we don't really understand how it applies or how it works. And I think that's the biggest problem, is being too scared to ask sometimes, to say, this is what you're doing, or this is what I think you're doing. How does that work? And who can I go talk to about it?
Exactly. And thank you for that. And one of the things I'd like to just share, David and I don't always agree about everything. Sometimes we're talking and I'm just like, why is that your choice? And sometimes we're talking and he's looking at me like, why is that your choice? What? I mean, you're never going to agree 100% with someone else's choices, because you aren't 100% in their shoes. So when we go to this case study number 3, person A decides at 21 they want to retire at 50, and they're dedicated to it. Awesome. Great. They may find at 50 they didn't want to retire, but it's a great plan. It can't harm until they start changing their plans. You can do that. Person B did not start thinking about retirement until age 35, but wants to retire at the standard age of 65. So they're like, okay, we're going to have 30 years to plan. That's a good long time that, you have time to make some changes. I didn't really start being strategic about retirement until I got married, and either got married or had kids. I don't remember. And we started talking about it. One of the great things that I value in my marriage is, although we don't agree on everything, most of our goals are spot on congruent. How we get there, not necessarily the same, but we're headed in the same direction. And first of all, that's another thing. Choose a partner that is your complement, and that will help you. Whatever you choose to do, it will help you be successful. Because there's no way I should have married another me. That would not have been successful. And I'm just going to go out there and say, Andre shouldn't have married another him. we married the right people. There is no better husband for me, because I would have been crazy with somebody else. More crazier, whatever. So person B, who didn't start to think about retirement at age 35, but starts getting really good advice and starts hunkering down to their goals so that they're doing the steps they need to start, then great. They have, 30 years is a good long time to affect a plan. At age 35, I hadn't even had a kid yet. I wasn't really as long-term as when I had a kid, and that will bring you up to, oh, hey, what should we do? What should we do? And person C is 45 years old and has just started to think of retirement. It's not too late, but it's getting there. So, maybe you at 45, person C has to be a little bit more proactive and more aggressive in his plans for retirement than person B, who has to be more aggressive than their plans than person A. But maybe retirement for person C doesn't look like retirement for person B, which doesn't look like retirement for person A, which is also great, which is also fine. It doesn't have to look like somebody else's. I remember years ago, maybe Andre, you can let me know. I think we met some people that decided to retire, and they wanted to get on a boat and travel around the world. And I remember thinking, there's absolutely no way I'd want to do that. So that wouldn't have been in my retirement plan. First of all, I don't want to be on a boat a long time. I'm kind of afraid of the water. So, but you know what? 25 years ago, I thought, oh, I want to just travel and stay in a 2-bedroom condo and not do anything too stressful. And I'm doing stuff that's a lot stressful. And I think I'm made for it. So I don't want to just do what I thought I would want to do 25, 26 years ago. But if we were to decide we could do that, maybe we could. I don't think my husband wants to just sit and twiddle his thumb and smoke cigars all day. So, but having some measure of freedom, that's great. Doesn't mean we have to do it. I enjoy what I do. There are days when I don't, and there are days when it's great. But for the most part, I'm extremely fulfilled, and I'd like to keep doing it as long as my mind is sound. So there you go. By the way, Joel wrote, Julie is a great problem solver. Well, thank you, Joel. So are you. I appreciate that. And, Joel, if you ever decide, hey, I want to retire and do something else, you have a community here that can help you strategize and plan. That's what it's about. Okay, so does anybody have a question that they want to throw out there, or a case study or anything? I can talk ad hoc about a lot of stuff. Just, give me a topic. Does anyone have something to throw out there, or can I ask for something? Let's see. Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Christopher, you got something you want me to cover? Uh-oh, we got silence. Come on, Chris. You got something.
You can cover some owner finance stuff for me if you want.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, what's your question about owner finance?
Hold on. If I want to see how much just the whole setup so I can understand it more. Just do the fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Okay.
So if we're just for a scenario, if underlying mortgage is 90,000, 4%, how would that look wrapped up?
Okay, so first of all, let's start with what we're talking about, because what owner financing is in its basis is that the seller of a property provides the note to the buyer of the property. The structure of what that looks like, it could be, I own a property free and clear, and I decide, I decide that when I sell it, I am going to, instead of just say, hey, you got to pay me the cash and get a mortgage, I'll be the banker. And let's say it's $100,000 property. I might ask, bring 15,000 down. I'll give you an $85,000 note at 8%. I don't have my calculator handy, so if anybody wants to tell me what a 30-year fixed at, say, 8% on $85,000 is, that would be your principal and interest. Okay. Or let's say I have a $100,000 house, but I have an $85,000 note on it to the bank at 3%. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta get out of this house. I gotta do something else. Let's say the house isn't worth 100,000. Let's say it's worth 120,000, right? And I'm like, I just need a little bit of cash. And then I let this person take over my loan. They make the payments. Now, I am not an expert in this, and it's going to depend state by state how you actually accomplish this. But you can do what's buying the house subject to the existing mortgage. In Texas, you get a different kind of deed. I won't go into all the specifics unless you guys want to meet with me later on an investor corner, which we could also do. But basically, you sell it to someone so they have title and they make the payments on your behalf. So you want to believe that they make payments on them and trust in that person. And they give you a little cash. And then that's a great way for that person to sell the property and have an income producing financial instrument. So they've basically taken the asset, the house, off their balance sheet and put a note on their balance sheet. So they now have a financial instrument. And if that person doesn't pay, they can foreclose upon it. Even if there's an underlying mortgage, they can foreclose on their mortgage. And then whatever they do to liquidate that property, they have to satisfy the underlying mortgage, and then they get those proceeds. And then they keep the down payment or whatever it was. So if you want to, if your intention is to create an owner financed note by getting an underlying mortgage or buying a house up to with an underlying mortgage, then your money is either going to be in that interest rate differential. So let's say the underlying loan is 85,000 and the mortgage you're putting on the house, the owner finance note is 85,000, then you want to make money in the differential of the interest rates. So if the underlying mortgage is 3% and you're like, I'm going to charge these guys 8%, then that 5% split on the $85,000 is your profit. Or you could say, hey, this house has an $85,000 loan, but it's worth 200,000. So I'm going to wrap that around with maybe $150,000 note and at 8%. So now it's a principal split. So you're paying on the $85,000 note at 4%. Maybe you offer the $150,000 note at 4%. And then you're making money because of the difference in the principal, or it's a combination of the two. So maybe you have an underlying mortgage at 85,000 of 4%, and you offer them $150,000 mortgage at 6%. So you're making an interest rate differential plus a principal balance differential, and then that's your profit. Here's the important thing to realize. When you take off the real estate asset and you put in place a note, make sure you consult with your tax professional as to how that's going to impact you. Because it's not the same kind of asset. And this is where you go back to your Pitranomics strategies of get your professional help and do it before you engage in the transaction, or at least have already done it enough so that you understand what the impact is going to be. So Chris, is that a good overview?
That's a great overview. Thank you, Ms. Juli.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, let's see. Who else can I call on? Shamir, do you have something you want me to cover? Talk about, discuss, tear up, dance about, whatever?
We can always take a dance break.
You want me to dance?
I actually don't have any questions, so.
You don't have any questions? Okay, well then we'll just dance it out. Let's see, who else do we have on here? I can't see who's on here. Oh, I have a question. This is more, I'm sharing somebody else's life story. This is a question. What is too much to spend on a wedding? Someone want to throw out some answers? Put them in the chat. What is too extravagant for a wedding? Hey, give me some answers.
Any amount.
Nothing is too extravagant.
Nothing is too
No,
extravagant.
no, because the world is everyone's oyster. It's possibilities that are endless.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Miss Shantae. All right. Looks like there's something in the chat. Chris says $10,000. Okay, that's too much for a wedding. All right.
Any amount is too much because it should be about the marriage, not the wedding.
Okay. All right. Shamir, any amount is too much because it should be about the marriage and not the wedding. Okay. You know what I think the answer is? I love all of them. As long as you're willing to live with whatever your choices are, it was made in a strategic way, and whatever the outcome is anticipated and accepted by you. So if you're willing to go into debt for 40 years for your wedding, you understand all the possible ramifications and pitfalls, including the fact that the debt might last longer than the wedding. Again, rock on. Personally,
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
thought you were, are you specifying the dollars amount? Because that's different than what I was thinking.
I just wanted to hear whatever was said.
Okay.
They're all good answers.
Okay, good. Because there are people who could have these extravagant weddings with their own, safety net of funding. In my mind, when you're saying extravagant, that could be creative things that you could create yourself.
That's true.
To be creative
it's
in your own
kinda-
wedding. Yeah.
Yep. Here's the thing. You were able to interpret that question kind of however you want it. It was sort of wide open. And
Okay.
Ms. Shantae said the world is her oyster, right? Oh, Joel said 15% of combined household income is too much. Okay. Also good. I will share a little story. When I was talking about marriage with my husband, and we were talking about how much to spend, and I was like, well, there's a guideline that's 3 months of your salary. I think that was it. Was it 3 months? Yeah, 3 months of your salary is a good guideline for how much to spend on a ring, blah, blah, blah. I know I've heard it somewhere, and I think someone else told him that too. And you know what my husband said? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm not mad at that. That to me is fine. We decided on something and it worked out. And here's the funny thing. How many of you have ever seen me wear my engagement ring? It's a beautiful stone. My husband did very well. Unfortunately, I'm not the same size I was when I got married, so it doesn't fit. But it's safely tucked away. That size 6 ring that I can't wear. And no, I'm not getting it sized because one day I'm getting back in the ring. Or I'll just go in there and look at it once in a while.
It's a new one. I've never heard anybody say, I'm getting back into that size 6 ring. That's a different one. I respect it.
That's Jacqueline's ring. She's
No,
already
it's too small for
destined.
Jacqueline. Jacqueline can't fit my ring. Actually, she can now because she's lost enough weight, but
Well,
normal-
Jacob can give it to his boo.
I don't know about that. Depends on who he chooses. And it would be a borrow, not a give. Okay, well, that was Julie's contribution to humor because, you hear about all different kinds of weddings, prices and all that. And all I want to say is if you're regretting what you spent as you walked down the aisle, that's probably too much. And I did have a friend tell me that. She said as she was walking down the aisle, she was like, nope, this was too much. It's beautiful. She was looking around. It's gorgeous. I did well. Too much. So there you go. Well, it is close to 7, and I promised myself I would not go over. Is there anything else that you would like to ask before I wrap this up? No? Well, let me tell you, I enjoy doing this. I am trying to impart what I know and learn from those that know what I don't. So throughout the rest of the year, there will be more topics, more covering of the strategies, more guest speakers, people who are able to give advice. I personally also love interactions. I hope you guys start talking to me. Don't be embarrassed because, I have made an absolute fool of myself at times and will do so in the future. This is a place of support, a place of love, a place of growth. So with that, thank you for attending my Thursday talks. Okay, hold on. Let's see. I only need 3 people at my wedding, me, my baby, and the minister. The after party will be the main event. All right. I like it. Hope I'm invited to the after party, So totally solid. Anyway, I'll see you guys next Thursday. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for spending your time. Mwah. I love you guys. Take it easy. Have a great
Mwah, mwah,
Mwah.
mwah.
Bye-bye.